You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham. We're talking about position groups as the Bengals have finalized, not really, but close, their 53-man roster. Let's hit the specialists. The final thing that we're going to talk about is the specialists. And I'm talking about kicking game and the actual kicking of the football and the people that are integral in kicking the football. During the course of other position group breakdowns, I've talked about guys that are core performers for Darren Simmons in terms of special teams, and that could be in the form of linebackers, secondary people, wide receivers, running backs, people that aren't necessarily big in the rotation during the course of the football game at snaps at the line of scrimmage, offense and defense. Darren Simmons welcomes them to special teams, and he wants guys to step up and be his core special teams players, playing on punt return, punt, kickoff return, playing on all the special teams. But this little scenario right here, we're going to talk about the actual specialist in the kicking game. And first, let's start with long snapper Clark Harris. The thing about Clark Harris, when he first came into the National Football League, he entered the NFL as a tight end and was trying to make the roster, and did make a roster as a tight end. But he was also a deep snapper. So as he made a quick decision that I'm going to focus on the long snapping, the deep snapping. And what a decision he made, because, he's 14 years in the National Football League and still snapping away. Well over 1,000 snaps without any kind of a miscue. I mean, that allows a special teams coach to sleep well at night. If you have a concern that your snapper is going to be inconsistent with snapping to the punter, snapping to the holder for placement kicks, it's not a very good feeling. And there have been teams in the league that have experienced this feeling multiple times. Darren Simmons with Clark Harris has been very fortunate for a long number of years about a guy that's just a machine back there. And Kevin Huber has told me over the years that I'll say, Clark, I want it on my right shoulder. Put the ball on my right shoulder. Boom, it'll be right there. I want it at my navel. Boom, it'll be right there. I mean, he's amazing how consistently and how accurate he is snapping the football. The other thing, because he has played football, he understands alignments. He understands blocking patterns that Darren Simmons has to neutralize those alignments. So you have Clark Harris is a football player, and that's what Darren likes about him. So he feels really comfortable with Clark Harris up there, being able to diagnose if they run something that wasn't handled during the week of practice. He knows that Clark Harris knows his system and his calls well enough. He can make a call that'll handle it, even though they didn't practice it all week long. So there's a huge comfort level for Darren Simmons with Clark Harris. Let's talk about punter Kevin Huber. Punter Kevin Huber's left leg has got to be longer than the right by now, as many punts as he's had as a Cincinnati Bengal. I mean, he probably walks with a little bit of a limp. That left leg is definitely extended. And Kevin Huber he's got every punting record in the Cincinnati Bengals record book in terms of number of punts, gross yards, single season career, net yards, single season career. I mean, you name it. Kevin Huber has rewritten that record book. And the thing that Darren Simmons likes about Kevin Huber, not just an ability to punt the football 70 yards, which he's done on multiple occasions. He's punted the ball 70 yards or more, but directional kicking and being able to do all the things you need to do, put little pooch punt, putting the thing up and with such hang time, forcing fair catches to occur. Those kind of things are invaluable. All the little details. The worst thing in the world is if, you have your punt coverage team anticipating the punter is going to kick it from the hash mark to the left sideline, and they're going that way in coverage, and he shanks it to the other sideline, to the right sideline, and they're already out of position, have to adjust and manipulate and maneuver themselves. Those are how long returns happen. So there's so many details, so many minutiae, so many little things that people don't even really think about. They think all the punter does is go back there, catch the snap, and punt it as far and as hard as he can. That's not all punting is in the National Football League. You have to be able to do that sometimes when you're buried in bad field position. You want to flip the field. You want to be able to, punt it 60 yards and have a net 55-yard punt. You want to be able to do that. But man, there's always all the other finesse punts and the direction that you have to kick it and make sure you keep it in that direction and everything that goes along with it. Kevin Huber has been outstanding for a number of years, in Darren Simmons' opinion. And Darren Simmons should know, because Darren Simmons was a punter at Kansas. So Darren Simmons knows exactly what he's talking about because he did it and he scrutinizes it heavily. And Kevin Huber has benefited by it. And Darren Simmons has benefited by Kevin Huber. And finally, let's talk about the rookie, Evan McPherson. When he hit that 57-yarder with ease, it was good from 60. I thought to myself, man, we finally have somebody like Justin Tucker with the Baltimore Ravens. When the Bengals play the Ravens over the last few years, every time the Ravens go to get over midfield, I'm like, oh, man, pretty soon here comes Tucker. Now the Bengals have a kicker. When the Bengals get over midfield against the Ravens defense, maybe Evan McPherson can hit this one. That's a huge weapon. It changes your whole mindset as a defensive coordinator, how you're going to call plays. You're going to try to set them back a little bit. And a lot of times, that doesn't happen until you get to the 35-yard line with a lot of kickers. Because, he's definitely good from 42. But, if we're at the 38-yard line, he's probably good from 45. But I can play it safe. I just want to make sure it's not any worse than a 45-yard field goal. But with these guys, with Justin Tucker and McPherson, are you kidding me? I mean, you're going to be having to make a decision from a defensive call standpoint. You're going to have to set them back closer to the 50-yard line. I mean, these guys from the 40-yard line with the ball at the line of scrimmage, just snapping 7 or 8 yards. He already showed he can make it from 57, 58 easily. So from the 45-yard line, snapping it to the opposite 50, you're on the opposite 49, 48-yard line, 61, 62-yard field goal. These guys can make that. Now, I think all kinds of circumstances are going to dictate whether you do it or not during the course of a football game. If you miss it, you're giving up excellent field position. You're already given a short field. You're already giving the ball to the opponent at the spot of the hold. So, you have to be prudent and wise about it. But, man, the way he made that 57-yard field goal and as straight as he kicked that thing, that's a hell of a weapon to have. Darren Simmons is not going to even think twice about running him out there from 50 to 55 yards. He's going to think it's automatic. And that's a big-time weapon for your offensive football team, a guy that can put points on the board from that standpoint. There is no question about it. And he's like these guys. I remember the first time I watched and heard Ken Griffey Jr. at batting practice with the Cincinnati Reds. When he hit the ball, it made a different sound. Believe me. When Evan McPherson hits the football, it makes a different sound. His thump, his thud is different. And it's effortless. That's the thing. He doesn't have to overcook it. He doesn't have to overswing. Darren Simmons always tells him, look, you can make it from 60, 65 without having to try to put anything extra on it. And then if they want to, I don't think there'll be a kickoff this year that won't be a touchback. This dude can put it in the stands. Just put it in the end zone. He puts it through the end zone. Now, the weapon is high hang time, make him catch it on the goal line, and pin him inside the 15-yard line. Forget the 20. Evan McPherson is going to influence field position to the point where as soon as you cross midfield, start thinking about a field goal. Kickoffs, burying people back inside the 20. Good weapon to have. Solid draft pick. People were like, why are you taking a kicker in the 5th round? Not so bad a decision right now after you see the son of a gun kick it. Darren Simmons knows what he's looking at, believe me, folks.
Hi, Dave Lapham here. Have you heard about In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics? Catch new episodes from the world of sports and broadcasting. Search for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.